Well, it's 2 o'clock, everybody, and we are excited to welcome you to the October Education Town Hall. This town hall is to have discussions and updates with the Department of Real Estate in terms of education. There are a couple things I'd just like to point out to you before we get started. Really appreciate your smiling face as always. It's always great to see you. So if you can turn your camera on, even though they say that's bad for bandwidth, that'd be awesome. If you are having issues with bandwidth, though, it could be Google Meets is lovely that way. You might need to all of us go to turning our cameras off unless you're speaking at some point. So just FYI if that comes up. Secondly, since we are all virtual, the only way to be extremely polite to each other and to give each other professional courtesy is to raise your hand. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little hand. When you want to speak, that is great. We will call on you to speak, and then you can unmute yourself and speak. Until then, please leave your mics on mute, just so we don't have any background noise. All of us at the department will go on mute unless we're the ones speaking as well. With that, I am excited to turn it over to Jim Knupp and Elena Kavaleski. As you all know, Jim is over many things as a deputy commissioner, and one of the great things is education. And Elena is our education manager and also our assistant commissioner, and she comes from a background in real estate. So Elena and Jim, take it away.
Thank you, Mandy. Hey, Brittany. Either way, now we know it is you, so you're good to go. Yeah, so Jim with the department, I'm a deputy commissioner as well as Mandy, and as Mandy has many hats, so do I. I'll start with just an update on our 5-year rule review. So you guys know, and I'm going to kind of go through what the 5-year rule review is and then what rulemaking is, because I think there's maybe a little bit of confusion in the public about what we just completed. Every single department in the state is required to review all of its rules within 5 years, every 5 years. And with that review, we are looking to see if it is clear, effective, enforceable. There are about 9 different characteristics that we're judging the rules on. As you know, some of you call them the commissioner's rules. Commissioner Nicholson, as well as the team here, like to call them the administrative rules or administrative code, because literally that's what they are. They are not the commissioner's rules. She did not come up with them. We come up with them working with you as stakeholders and get them through the Governor's Regulatory Review Council. We are required, again, every 5 years to review those rules against 9 different characteristics. We did that, and we submitted our package, our rule review package, on June 24. I believe they were due June 26th of this year. Just last week, we went before GERC. They were adopted by consent, and I will say one of the things that we took note of, and we want you to know, is that we were congratulated and thanked for our work with getting stakeholder feedback on the rule review. And so with that rule review, we're not actually required to get stakeholder comments, but seeing that we had not actually completed our prior 5-year rule review and that we've not rule made since 2006, we wanted to make sure that we captured all of your thoughts and any thoughts you did have on the rules we have. We incorporated any of the rules that had relevance to our rules. As you can imagine, a lot of people submitted comments on statute or industry changes, and those are, of course, not what we were considering with the report itself. But the ones that actually had relevance to a rule, we either addressed it, and I can tell you, majority of the rules that had relevance to a rule were actually addressed in our omnibus that passed and was signed SB 1171, as we've talked about many times now at this point. So the council, at least 4 members, thanked us for our work, our thoroughness, and making sure that we are addressing each of the concerns from the stakeholders, as well as just doing a comprehensive review, as comprehensive as we could do, going back about a decade of what the recommendations were for rulemaking and incorporating those, as well as looking back to at least 2014 for legislative changes that have not been incorporated into our rules. That is the rule report. With the rule report, we did submit a draft of the rulemaking that addresses those concerns, as well as some other concerns that we identified while reviewing the rules. We submitted that to the governor's office on that same day, June 24. We've received a couple of questions, met with the governor's office a couple of times, but we've yet to hear back from them on whether we will receive that waiver from the rulemaking moratorium. Once we do, we'll turn to you, our stakeholders. We will open a docket. It's called filing a notice of docket opening. And once we file that notice of docket opening, that's when we start to get stakeholder feedback. So by no means do we think what we have written is what will be presented as a notice of proposed rulemaking. So between the docket opening and the notice of proposed rulemaking, that's where we're working with you. We're working with associations. We're working with the general public to get feedback on what our draft is before we go to a notice of proposed rulemaking. Once we get to the notice of proposed rulemaking, we have to have our rules pretty well established. We can't have any substantive changes after the notice of proposed rulemaking, or we have to go all the way back to the beginning. So we really want to have the draft rules written as best we can with consensus from the stakeholders before we move into notice of proposed rulemaking. After notice of proposed rulemaking, we have to provide 30 days at least for that notice, and that notice possesses our actual proposal. And at that conclusion of the 30 days, we must hold stakeholder meetings or public comment period. And we are going to view these meetings, this education town hall. We're going to view the advisory board meeting, and we're going to view the development services meeting as venues for those public meetings. At that, you bring your comments about the proposed rulemaking, and we would have to address those comments either in the notice of final, or we would have to see, oh, that is a fatal flaw in what we proposed, and we would have to take that portion of the rulemaking back to the beginning. So it'll be an iterative process. We do want you involved early because we don't want to get too far into the process and have to go all the way back to the beginning. Does that make sense so far? Great. I see a couple of heads nodding yes. And thank you, Kim. Thank you, Denise. So yeah, we did complete the rule review. That portion, it's largely inside baseball. It's not even our process. We're just participating in it. It's GERC's process, and they're making sure that our rules are keeping up to date and keeping with the purpose that they were originally approved. Now we're going to go into the rulemaking portion, but we have to wait for the waiver of rulemaking moratorium before we proceed. So we're just kind of in a waiting period to see what they approve. If they approve everything, fantastic. If they approve a portion of it, great. Whatever it is that they approve, we are going to move forward with and begin to engage with U.S. stakeholders on. Some schools have realized that we are making changes, and we have talked about these changes in the last education town hall. We are reviewing outlines with a bit more scrutiny. The statute requires them to be detailed, and if you are giving us one word or phrases that don't appear to us to be detailed enough that make sure that we understand that you have an hour's worth of content, we are turning back to you and asking you to provide us additional detail. Most schools have embraced the changes. We are working with others to ensure that they meet those statutory requirements as well as the commissioner's minimal requirements. Again, we are getting a lot of cooperation from most schools. Some schools are fighting back, and we're happy to answer those concerns that the schools are raising. I can tell you, we've talked about the changes in these education town halls. If you've asked us, we've been happy to tell you what those changes are, but basically it is minimal requirements. The commissioner has said that if you're teaching strictly to a form and you are only teaching a form for your hours, you are not going to get approved for CE. You're welcome to teach that. You're welcome to make money. That has nothing to do with us, but you're not going to get continuing education credits to be awarded to students who are filling out forms. If you're teaching to one segment of our licensees, if your information only relates to a single segment, even if it is a large segment of our licensees, but it does not apply to all licensees, you're likely not going to get approved for continuing education credits on those. And then additionally, like I said, we're really focusing on these content outlines. Look, we cut out a lot of stuff out of that application, out of the course application. We're asking you to be detailed in the outline because that's what statute requires you to be. If we go through the outline and we can't make up, doesn't make sense to us how you're getting 3 hours or an hour even of course content, we are going to be asking you and issuing a deficiency, asking you to give us additional details in that outline. And if you fail to do that, then we will be issuing denials. In a review and talking with staff, it's my understanding that we've actually not issued a course denial in over 10 years. That doesn't make sense, does it? To anybody? It doesn't to me. And so we like to work with you. Obviously, we work with you on whenever you submit a course application. We often give you feedback and you often meet that feedback. If you're not going to meet that feedback, we are going to be unafraid to give you a denial on that course. And we will take it to OA and you defend your side and we will defend our side and we'll see how the judge comes out. Denise, you had a question.
Thank you. So I'm just renewing or getting ready to renew a class that was called Property Management Forms, AAR Property Management Forms, and do I have to use them? It sounds very clearly like that's the kind of class you do not want to renew. However, the reason why that class was created is we have a lot of licensees that straddle sales and property management, but they don't do enough. I was really glad to see that we have to have classes now, broker classes and property management. So you all know that's my field. So what I do in that class is I take that and say, why is line 1 on this form? What is the law that applies to line 1? Why is line 1 so important? How is that different from all these other words? Line 2, why is this so important? Why is it on this particular form? If you're not using that form, fine, what does yours have? So would that class be denied?
It sounds like you're describing exactly how we've asked for it. Look, we're not opposed to you presenting a form as you're giving examples of how a licensee meets the law. And so that sounds like how you're describing it is you're describing what the law is and how a specific line meets that legal requirement. And so from your description, it sounds like you would be, I don't want to promise approval now, but Elena would work with you on understanding how you need to word those outlines and how you need to make sure that you're giving us information that would apply to licensees and actually represent continuing education.
So maybe the name of the class is the problem, because like AAR forms and do I have to use them? Well, it sounds like you're just teaching that form, but it's because statistically so many of them use them. Maybe changing the name or something. Okay, that's what I needed. Thank you so much. I'm just renewing it, actually just finishing the draft right now. So appreciate that.
Yeah, and like I said, submit it and I'll get back to you. Yeah, Mandy.
So before we go to Jesse's question, it sounds really scary. When I was an educator, that sounds like I can't teach a form where I use that form to kind of create the outline of my contract, because that's how I learned my risk management. That's how I learned things. And we have many different forms in the industry that I'm learning. And the big thing to understand is no longer can you teach a class where you walk through and you say, okay, so line 3 is the address. We put the address here. Line 3 also incorporates the APN. This is how we list the APN. What we're saying is, like, if you use the residential purchase contract as an agreement, that purchase contract is a livable document that changes with the risk management committee of the Arizona Realtors. It's used by members for contracts, but there's so much case law behind it. So if you truly go into, I know Laura teaches this so well, the GRI course on contracts, you learn the background of why risk management and due diligence is created. That's different than saying, and you put 7 days instead of 10 days on this line. It's different than how to fill out a form, or filling out something that does not protect the public, but protects your own business interest. Because everything the department does is, okay, how do you take this information, even if a form is utilized as a handout, and teach to it in case law, or teach to it and how it applies in all aspects of contracts in Arizona. So Denise, I'm not sure, you should get with Elena one-on-one and do a request on the title of your form today because you're teaching those to members and you're teaching the law behind them, of course, because you're who you are. So it's more than just teaching to how to do a form. And then Jim, is his name on Google Meets because we can't change them. I'll go back to you to call in Jesse.
Cool. Jesse.
Hello. I just have a follow-up question then, just for clarity, based on, for example, Denise's question. What I understood you said previously was, you said, but classes may not be approved if they teach to a specific segment. So for example, my first question would be, well then, if we're trying to teach a course that's specific to property management, are you saying that that is not allowed because that is a significant population? So I'm just looking for definition clarification on that.
Yeah, what I meant by segment is forms that are used by specific membership organizations or specific brokerages. And this really relates very poignantly to buyer-broker agreements. There were a lot of buyer-broker agreement courses submitted as it relates to just association. And frankly, just association isn't the only one with a buyer-broker agreement. So if you're, and I can think of 2 large brokerages in the state that are not using those forms. And so if you wanted to CE for just that form, you're going to have a hard time convincing us that that is in the interest of the public or licensees to teach them information that does not relate to their employer or the form that they need to use.
And then if I could just follow up on that. So then, for example, I submitted a form, but it was, and though we covered buyer broker agreements in general, I was discussing case law regarding, like, here's the requirements. 32, 21, 5102 says you have to have a specific beginning. So those are the things that should be okayed, even though we've got a form we're discussing. I'm discussing case law in Arizona, how these forms are properly executed so that it's, a court would say, yes, this is an enforceable document, something along that line.
It would really depend on it. I mean, it really depends on what you submit, but by your description, it sounds about right. Before I go to Barb, I'm going to comment back to Laura, as well as it looked like L Hill, which I assume is Liz Hill. Laura, you properly said that your course was rejected. Liz, you said that we denied courses. We did not deny courses. We did reject them, which does not follow administrative law. Administrative law, if you submit an application, you have certain rights behind a denial of an application, even if it's for a course. So if I deny your course, you have the right to appeal that denial. By rejecting you, Laura, who did you have to go to a due process to fight with the department? No one but leadership. And if leadership said no, then you had no recourse. But
typically upon rejection, there's a good reason given. If I accept that, then I'm not going to argue with them. I will rework what I'm doing and fix it. But there have been, classes that have been rejected.
Yep, and so that's what we view as the deficiency period.
Yes.
And so a deficiency would be issued, and you'd have the opportunity to either, what, that course isn't worth it. It was an interest of mine that I'm not really interested in anymore, or you're going to fix those deficiencies, and you'd resubmit. And again, the department would work with you, or we wouldn't. And then if we wouldn't, then you're left off a crick of not being able to actually have recourse. What we're saying is that first part is not going to change. We are going to continue to work with you, try to get your course into an approvable form or format. But if not, we're going to be unafraid to give you that denial, so you have recourse with the administrative process. So we're more closely following the statutes that were given to us. Ms. Barb.
Are you ready for me? Sorry.
Yep, sorry.
Sorry. So just curious, since there are so many or multiple entities coming out with their own forms, certain forms, wouldn't it be beneficial if somebody, and going back to Denise's question, if she's teaching a class on property management, utilizing as a reference the AAR forms or the Denise forms or the EXP forms, that be in the title. So when students or licensees are registering for a class and say they only use XYZ forms, I don't want to sign up for that contract class or that property management class that will be referencing AAR forms or XYZ forms. I mean, it seems like people who are utilizing certain forms and the instructors who are teaching certain forms, they're only familiar with the forms that they use as the examples as they're pulling and not teaching how to fill out the form, but using them as an example. If I'm with XYZ firm, my form doesn't say it that way. So I'm now not fully utilizing a learning, opportunity for me. So if they have the title of what type of forms or what the entity's forms are, it seems to me would accomplish what you're looking for, but it would also clarify that these classes are XYZ contract classes or their employment agreement or their listing agreement. I'm just curious why, or have you thought about it from that angle?
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to deny based on the title. I think we're looking more toward the outline and are you actually teaching the law and then using reference material behind it rather than the other way around.
Okay.
So I don't know that we would deny it based on a title form. But
Okay.
it's a good point. Mr. Raskin.
Thank you.
Yes. Hey, good afternoon, Jim. And good to see you, Mandy. So I have a couple of questions about what you mentioned. So I've had courses being denied because of not being detailed enough. And these are courses, of course, I've been submitting for the last 19 years. For example, when I talk about commissioner standards, I talk about R420, 1101, or 502, something like that. These are things that haven't changed at all from the, of course, the Arizona Administrative Code. So my question for you is, I submitting these courses and saying, hey, this segment is going to be on this R4 rule. Well, you need more content or I'm sorry, more detail. I don't know what else I can possibly say. It is what it is. We all know what it is. So, I mean, if you want word for word, I don't want to write a War and Peace and send that over to you. So that's one of the issues that I'm having with education and Jackie and everybody else. And that's what I want to discuss is how much more detail. How do I know how much detail? Because they're just getting rejected and saying not enough detail. That's actually question number one. The second question, if I may, is going to be on these other town hall meetings. I very unfortunately wasn't able to be there. I was teaching, I was whatever, right? And so the question is, where can I find the content like I did before? Things change and I understand that. But for example, I was getting this education basically guideline and it said, here are the new changes, boom, 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 boom. And I was able to like look at it, go, oh my gosh, I can't do that anymore, right? I can't do hybrid, whatever, without these. And it was very easy to find. And, going through a town meeting, if it's an hour, 2 hours, I'm missing it. Where do I find it? I saw on Facebook. And I don't know if I'm echoing, but anyways, I went on Facebook and like some of the department were actually got put in Facebook jail. It said, hey, we're taking you off of there. This particular thing. And I know, Mandy, and because I get your updates, but some of them were actually taken off and people have been sending me screenshots and other instructors are like, hey, what is the new rule? What is this? And I'm like, I didn't know that. So I think maybe having a place where we can go as instructors and seeing like exactly what is the latest and greatest from all these town hall meetings and rule changes, I think that would help also quite a bit.
Yeah. Question one, Mandy, did you want to take that? You were off mute.
Yeah, I got excited about question one. Question one was about the one words and the content. Well, the difference is, Jeff, right? Like when I used to write my courses previously, I'd make them so vague. So whatever I talked about in 502, it was so loose that I could spend however much time on anything. We just really want to verify that you have 50 minutes of content. You can say 502, but how are you going to fill up that 50 minutes of content with 502? Some of it you just say and it's 30 seconds later and we move on to the next topic. Some of it you spend time on. So it's not saying, hey, I need your narrative of what you're going to say or your script, because I hope you're free enough with yourself to know you're going to use different words every time you speak as a human. But at the end of the day, okay, what are you going to do in that section to take up that 50 minutes? Or are you just saying, hey, I'm just going to, define this? Well, I can define something in 2 minutes. So, how are you taking up the 50-minute segment? So the key is that if someone has to monitor your class, right, because we're monitoring courses, that they look at it and they know exactly what should have filled that 50-minute space, even if you don't do it in the correct order, because life happens and we do what we do in our classes based on our audiences. But at the end of the day, everybody is very clear on what should be filled, because sometimes you look at those outlines and they're not very detailed. You're like, okay, they touched 2 of the 10 things in 502 and they said they're going over all 502, right? So we want more clarity on how that time is going to be spent to ensure that it's giving a 50-minute segment.
So Mandy, not to dwell on this, but if I was to say, oh, okay, so I'm going over 50, oops, let me back out a little bit. So I'm going over 502 and I'm literally going over each of these lines, A through whatever, including samples of those, which is what I do to take up the 50 minutes. Would that be enough? I just really need to get clarification, because when I get a rejection, which I don't think I've ever, I'm like, wait, what's going on? And then it's happening more and more and more, a little bit frustrating, but I just want to know why that's happening. So I understand why, but my question is, so if I explain, I'm going over each line along with actual examples of how it has affected me in my own real estate career, and these things have happened to me, would that satisfy that?
That would be more thorough. And then you would be able to say, we're doing an interactivity with this, and that interactivity is going to go over examples of 502, and this is going to take 20 minutes, right? Because it's a breakout or whatever the case is. So we just need more detail than just 502 and here's the law. Like, we can read the law book and the requirements. We need to know, what are you going to do with it? So that sounds already more descriptive. And then when we do give discrepancy updates to instructors, we are very thorough on exactly what's being asked. So if a phone call is needed, you just need to request it, and you can always have an actual discussion, because even in Google Chats, life gets a little hairy, right? Like, what did you mean by that comment? So always happy to have a discussion on a one case scenario as well, if somebody's not understanding what you put into your outline.
Yeah, and to that point, I know Elena has spent several hours on the phone with some of you. Butch, I see you on here. I know Elena said she spent quite a bit of time with you walking through how to change the outline. We're not afraid to do that. We're happy to do that with you, Jeff. If you get a denial or a deficiency issuance, notice of deficiency issued, by all means, if you don't understand why we're issuing it, pick up the phone, send us a message back. We're happy to work with you as always. Mary, do you have your hand up?
Oh, wait, Jim, he had
sorry.
another
Okay.
question. He wanted to know about the videos.
2 questions. We need a debate moderator here. Second question. Yeah, and I put in the chat there. We post all of these recordings. So this is a town hall. We're not required to have minutes. We're not required to have an agenda. It is not something where a deliberative body is coming together. So we do not need minutes, but for your sake, as you're saying, Jeff, we do record them and we do post them. So we do post them on YouTube, and everyone that we've had since these started are up there on that channel. If there's something lacking in there, I understand you may be asking for a consolidated comprehensive list, so you don't have to spend 5 hours watching the historics, but everything that we've said in town halls is on that YouTube channel.
Also, the Facebook jail thing, other than Facebook putting someone in Facebook jail, I'm not even allowed as a government employee to like post things on our Facebook other than just the post itself. Like, I can't reply to your post, and I can't take anybody off our Facebook. So we personally don't put any.
You
Can
can. I don't allow you.
Oh yeah,
If
Jim
you-
doesn't let me. So I don't take anybody off. So there's some people on there that I don't think are licensees or any of you guys that just say crazy things all over it. But at the end of the day, it would be Facebook taking something and putting it in Facebook jail, which they've shut me out of my accounts before as well. So I don't understand them. So I apologize about that. And if you see that, please let us know so I can try to go through those administrators in the cloud somewhere to try to set people free. And I think we answered all your questions then, Jeff. Is that correct?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, and just so the group knows, it's a bit cumbersome, but if we were to respond to you in Facebook, that changes the type of correspondence and it changes the length of time we have to keep that post in Facebook. It changes the retention schedule from public information to correspondence. So that's why we don't reply to you in Facebook. Mary.
I just want to get clarification because when you were saying the classes have to apply to everything, you're not actually meaning it has to apply to all of the different disciplines. I can have a CE class that's related to residential or a contracts for residential, or I can do contracts for commercial. So that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, and I appreciate your and Jesse's clarification on that. Yes, the industry can be segmented out certainly, but what we're not looking to do is teach certain practices among say residential that only apply to a certain segment within the residential practice or industry.
Okay. And then as far as the outlines, you're just really looking for us to say, here's what it is, and this is how I'm going to bring the concept to life.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
And again, most of you are coming right along board with us on providing that additional detail. And Jeff, again, we're happy to work with you. And I'm sorry, is it Janice? It is. Okay.
Janice. Hi, everyone. I have noticed recently we've had an uptick in monitors, which is awesome. I'm assuming the volunteer call out last year worked. But we get great feedback from the monitors in class, but we never hear anything from ADRE. Am I with the understanding that it is no news is good news?
That would be a great assumption. Yes. No news is always good news whenever it comes to us monitoring and then no follow-up, but happy to provide that additional follow-up if you need, if you want it, I guess. All right.
Awesome, thanks.
Of course. So that kind of does that. Elena, did you have any updates?
Not really updates on my end. I can't see if Todd's on this call, but Todd, if you are on this call, thank you. Shout out to you for your lengthy outlines. So great that I actually put a couple of my education staff in there to learn a couple concepts about real estate. So just a good shout out to you and thanks for your great outlines.
And then we have a comment in the chat from Kathy Howe about the investor workshop coming up on October 29th that Liz Recchi is putting on. Really excited about that. Investor workshop. There is no continuing education. It is completely information to all of Arizona on an item that is not regulated by the states. Investors are not regulated, and yet we have so many predatory practices. It's unreal. So helping being part of that solution. And we have paired up with ASREA, which is the Arizona Real Estate Investor Association here locally. And everybody's invited. I have about 20 more spots available. If anybody would like to attend, please email me because we do have a limit of 60 attendees. We'll see how well we are received on if we need to find a bigger place in the future or if we need to do multiples, but absolutely it's within the commissioner's powers to educate the public. It is just not to compete with schools, which would be to give continuing education. So those are within the statute abilities, and that is advertised, and that is advertised to all humans, not just licensees.
Cool. All right. So with the remaining time, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. This is the town hall. We want to hear back from you. What are some outside of outlines, any other concerns or issues that you guys are seeing? Mr. Muir.
Nice to see you all.
Good to see you, sir.
So just a quick question. I know we've been going back and forth on this for a little while. Any update on the educator statistics? And I was looking around the other day for some of those. You guys used to post like the educator updates on the website I know we took the Pearson View stats down due to some other things. Any update on if we're going to get those back soon? Can we get those? What's that process look like?
Yeah, so the educator update started during COVID, and I believe it was mainly to keep you guys more up to date as things were actively and quickly changing. I believe Elena sends you all emails. If you're not getting Elena's emails with updates, let her know. But she does send pretty, I would say once a month at least, emails probably out to all educators about different events that are coming up or changes. But Greg, I'm not sure what information you're looking for, but if you tell us, we can try to provide it for you.
Somebody else might be getting it. I'll track that down with the educator update.
Great. It's not the educator update as it used to be, but it's just an email from Elena letting you all know that something's happening or something's changed. As it relates to the stats, for those who don't know, we took those stats down. We were challenged by a school who knew the number of students that had taken the Pearson View exam, and that was not reflected in the statistics that we received from Pearson View. So until we get to the bottom of why the number of individuals testing was not matching the number in the statistics, obviously we don't want to provide, we're not required to provide that information. We don't want to provide that information if it's incorrect. If it's inaccurate, that's potentially making us liable for driving business to certain schools and away from certain schools, and we don't want to be put in that position. So until Pearson View gets to the bottom of why the stats were potentially inaccurate, we took those stats down. So thanks for bringing that up, Greg, but I just wanted to say for the consumption of the group why that occurred.
There was a comment in the chat about audit buckets and the audit process. Really excited about our education workshop we are having here on site for licensees that are schools and instructors or administrators, and we'll be going over the complete audit process of how it's working. The bucket system was a system that was put in place by the Auditor General in our sunset audit. And it said that we had to show that we looked at all different kinds of brokerages. And so we have stayed to what we've been doing for quite some time and pulling from different areas. So it's not all property management or just residential being looked at when it comes to audits. And happy to do an update on that after we hold our education workshop and make sure that everybody understands the process.
Great. And then Mandy, while you're still off mute, Liz is asking for an update on pre-licensing course.
Yes, we have about 600 new items turned into Pearson View with our new content outline. It is not going to be an easier class. The outcome of the subject matter experts is to show that a licensee, when licensed in Arizona, will now know how to represent somebody in Arizona and using the national part of the ARELO exam. When it's completed, we have several more stages before it's able to be rolled out, and there will be some large leeways in time between when it's rolled out to the schools and when the schools have to start putting it in practice. So just to let you know, again, we have about, if I look at the list, I want to say it's around 350 existing items that are state related that will remain on the exam, 600 new items at this time that need to be tested and legally defensible. So as our subject matter experts finish the final review of 2 more categories and we input them, we will then go into the part where they test on the questions, the subject matter experts, and then from there, we'll have the next phase, and we'll keep you updated when we get to the next phase.
And then I know, Liz, I saw an email from you to the advisory board this morning. Mandy, did you want to just comment on, I think there was a fear of moving away from the Arizona specific exam to a national exam, and I don't think that's what's happening, but if you wanted to comment on that.
Oh, I am so excited to comment on that because ARELO is, as you all know, well, maybe you don't because I didn't know anything about them. They're an association for real estate law officials and regulators. And what they do is they have an exam that can be national, and there's a lot of reciprocity within other states because of the national exam. People can come in and just take the state section of the exam to apply for a state license. We're beefing our state license exam that will be Arizona specific up so much, and having so much case law behind it and agency and contracts of how they work here, and everything is sourceable, that the state piece will be very Arizona centric, but then allowing people that are professionals that leave the state of Arizona to hopefully, after we negotiate with other states, have reciprocity in their states. So if you want to retire in Colorado, cool, right? Just as an example, you can still be a licensee without having to redo the 90 hours or whatever their requirements are for a full-fledged license. So we're really excited about that flexibility for actual professionals. And I'm really happy with how the items have been coming out, because they all make sense to Arizona. They're not form specific. They're not anything that would be confusing. It's very cut and dry of this is an Arizona topic, and we're going to take it head on and make sure people know, all the way down to title insurance and the importance of certain policies and licensees to know. So we're going to cover things that the national level doesn't even think about.
And so just to be very clear, the Arizona specific exam is not going away.
Yep.
There will be questions on specific to the state of Arizona, and only, well, if the other states have similar laws, and maybe similar to other states, but it'll be very Arizona specific, and there will also still be a national portion. Mandy, could you take a minute and talk about kind of the timeline of when schools can expect to get the outlines or the curriculums?
Sure. So unfortunately, it kind of slowed down on the review of two of the item areas. So we're still inputting those. But I imagine by the end of the year, we'll have a really good picture, and be able, end of the calendar year, because I live in fiscal year now, the calendar year, you'll at least have what the topics are, the outcome items, and some curriculum to go over. However, it won't be ready by the end of the year with Pearson VUE to roll out yet as a new test. So we're going to have quite some time, because there's 3 phases they go through to make items legally defensible, and not all the items that are written will reach the test or all the forms, right? Some will get kicked out. So it's still months away. I'm not going to say years away, but it's definitely, from now into the end of next year, probably away from actually being the test. But we are actively working on it. So by the end of the year, you should receive some type of update if you have a pre-licensing school. And we have not even started the brokers yet. So please note that will be done after pre-licensing is done.
And Liz followed up, and I think I know where her concern is now. So Arello has a bank of questions. Is there anything that is not going to be specific, and I think what she means is accurate to Arizona, from the national portion on our exams?
Oh, well, thank you for that. I felt like you were going to answer it, Jim. So yes, of course, national is different, right? But real estate is real estate. In the country of real estate, you need to know the difference between a land contract that they do in Michigan and the contracts we do here in Arizona. And so when you speak to your clients, you know that there's differences. You need to know that race to recording is an Arizona topic, and it's what we do here in Arizona, but it's not what they do on the East Coast. So yeah, a lot of the concepts in the national Arello is real estate overall in the country. But they're all basics of real estate in the United States of America. And it's what a realtor should know. The Arizona specific section is beefing up Arizona specific, and they still have to pass Arizona specific, which I have been told will be the most sophisticated test when it comes to knowledge base of practitioners that they've ever seen before at Pearson VUE. So I'm quite excited about that, and I am not scared to break the mold to make us better. And then Mary was next with her hand.
And Mandy meant licensee, not realtor. Man,
oh, I meant licensing. 21 years is a little hard to break.
I'm laughing because I thought that, James, but I didn't say it. So my question is, if we wind up changing this test, what happens to students that are going through pre-licensing now under the current thing, and then all of a sudden they're going to be taking a test when it's been changed? How is that transition going to take place?
There will be large announcements, and we'll make sure that, like I said, there's going to be just months and months. And I understand that you can pass the test and you can wait like a year to take the exam, but they're going to be on notice as students that if you're taking this curriculum, you want to take the test by this date. And that is exactly why the new items will not be rolled out to current students to be testing, because there's no way they would pass them in today's curriculum. So we will work with all of you. We will listen to your ideas and we will collaborate, because this is a large turnover and we want people to be successful. We don't want anybody to spend their 90 hours and fail. And we'll work with Pearson VUE and see if it's possible to still offer a certain forms. That's what they call tests. They have many different versions of the tests to people based on what time frame they took the exam. Took the classes.
Right. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mary. Mr. Lieber.
Hello, sir. Since you called me out, I felt the need that I had to jump in.
I can take it back.
No, it's good. I did appreciate my 18-hour call with Elena over my. No, it wasn't quite that long. It wasn't quite that long.
I had to pay her overtime.
Yeah. It was great. Like, it was a great conversation. And here's the question I have. There were things she wanted me to add to my class that definitely made the class better. And some things she asked me to add that I still don't understand. I added them anyway. But like, one of the things that I thought was interesting was, if I'm going to reference an AAR form, I've got to make a disclosure that AAR forms are only used for members of the association. They're not available to all licensees. And even if you're an AAR member, the forms are optional for your business. Makes sense. There must be more of those. And listening to what Jeff had to say about, I need more instructions, I need more information, what to put in my outlines to get them approved. Are you collecting these instructions that you're giving to this instructor and these instructions to that instructor, so that you could give us a playbook, maybe an SPS, maybe something that says, these are the things we're now looking for. These are the consistencies that we'd like to see when you're applying for classes. When we review a renewal class, and I love that Denise said, I've got 5 classes that are currently approved called Know Your Forms. Now, me, my classes are about the law. They are about the why the forms are the way they are. I don't teach how to fill out a form. And I know when they come up for renewal, I'll probably want to change the names. But are you working on some communication that all of us can get, not just one tidbit for me and one tidbit for Jeff and one tidbit, so that we all have some instructions, that these are the things that we've been gathering over the last few months that we want all of you to know? Because I think that would be really useful to stem some of where's the communication? How is everybody getting educated, rather than just a little bit here, a little bit there, and then all the conversations behind the scenes? Are you working on something for us as a group that you can say, these are the policies we'd like to see everybody follow as we move forward, versus the frustration of, I got my class rejected because of this, and I was told that 3 months ago. I'm surprised you didn't hear that before. Are you taking steps to make it easier for us in this process?
Yeah, so right now, Elena, and I'll let her speak to it, but Elena's working on a rubric that we're going to be judging courses by, and we'll be rolling that out certainly.
And you'll be sharing that with us?
Yes.
On which of your social media platforms will you be sharing that with us? And I joke, right? But where can we go? Where can we expect to go find it, so that I don't have to hear it from Dana when we're having lunch? Oh, that came out 3 weeks ago. I'm surprised you didn't see that.
Yeah, anything we put on any of our social is also on our website, and anything we put out on social is on all of our social.
But how come not email? And I don't mean to be picky, but how come not email to us as a list of registered instructors? We want to be successful. We want to be successful with you as our partner, not with you as somebody we're fighting against.
Yeah, and I don't think we're fighting against anyone.
You may none, but you are. See, I think that you are. I think you understand there's a challenge that people are having. And I think what resolves that is communication.
I think we're going through a transitionary period where we are attempting to communicate, and we're attempting to find the best way to communicate with you guys. And yeah, I know for many of you that's email, and we do, I believe, roll out a lot of the important things in email as well as social. So to answer you, yeah, I believe that would be something that would come out in an email to all school administrators.
Okay, good. Because I think we all want to work together. I think like we don't want to be fighting. We all want to be working together. But you get it. I know you're frustrated. You know, we're frustrated, and let's find a way to work together so that we can like alleviate that with education, information, and communication. Because it's good stuff. I like the things. Like I said, I love the conversation. I could talk to Elena every day. She's amazing. I told her last week she was my hero. You know, because she helped me with something which was great. Right? Let's find a way to work together and create that, please.
Agreed. Judy.
Okay.
Miss Lowe, you have your hand raised. Okay. Anybody else with questions while we see if Judy can unmute? Holly. You're on mute, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
There you go. There you go.
Actually, I want to share something positive about the department. I know,
So
you know,
what?
yeah, we love updates. Definitely, I would, you know, I have a class was denied, and you know, I hurt my feeling because I'm a very smart guy and have good looking, but so I asked for clarification and I got the clarification right away. And the question was how this information, how this course can benefit our members and the public. Made the changes, submitted again, it's got approved. So it's nice and sweet. Thank you guys.
Great. Great. Thanks for the feedback.
I agree. We've had the same experiences.
Great. Wonderful, Denise. Like I said, we're working through a lot of administrators and schools and getting a lot of good feedback, and we're getting negative feedback, not gonna lie. But we're trying to work with you as well as we can as we address the changes, and yeah, Butch, we can always do a better job of communication, and we'll work on it. Great, thanks, Stephanie. Ms. Barb.
Just a question. I know on the forms, the ADRE forms, when we're submitting our outlines, there's an outline template. Have you considered adding the question, how does this content protect the public? So it requires us to fill that all out?
Yeah, so I believe those forms will be changing to include the statutory change if they've not already. And I know that Elena is going to be providing in the near future, I would say next 2 to 3 weeks, new content outline samples for each of the categories, just to provide additional ideas or notions as to what we're looking for when we're looking at those content outlines.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Butch, those will go on X and only X, and we will post those at midnight.
But then they will appear on the front page of our website if you scroll down.
The
They do.
response I have to that would be inappropriate for this venue.
Judy put her hand down and re-put it up, so maybe she can unmute now. Judy, did you want to speak? Okay.
All right. Miss Liz. You're on mute, Liz. You thought you were ready.
Sorry, I'm so used to Zoom. I can't figure out this system. I had asked this morning and I'm still waiting for an answer, which I'm sure will come by the end of the day. But since you're here, on that content outline, they have not been updated yet. And I was asking, where do I put how does this help the public? Should I put that where it said what my educational outcome is supposed to be? Do I add a column? Do I put it at the bottom, or where do I put that before I've got a class I'm ready to send in and I don't know where to put it?
Elena?
Yeah, thank you, Liz. I will update that in the sample outlines, but essentially if I can read through your course outline that it's designed to protect the public, that would suffice. If in your objective it states this is designed to protect the public, yet throughout the course outline it really has nothing to do with the public and how it would benefit the public, then that's not adhering to that portion of the statute. So it can say in your objective that it is designed to protect the public, but then throughout the course, just gearing your course in areas that would contribute towards affecting the public in a positive way.
Okay, so for those,
But I will add that.
Okay, great. So for those 3 classes that are required, I've sent one, it's been approved. I'm getting ready to send another now that the law has changed since I sent the last one. Because those came from ADRE and they're supposed to protect the public, I don't have to say that specifically, right?
To remain consistent, yes. So although the content material was from the department, you're still responsible for submitting the appropriate outlines and applications that we would look at if it were just any other course. We would look through them with consistency and for the exact same reasons for any other course that you seek approval for.
Yeah, I'm sending the outline. I just didn't know if I had to specifically say this is to protect the public because I'm only doing it because ADRE said we need to do this to protect the public.
Yep, just to remain consistent, yes.
Yeah, you could certainly design a course around FireWise that still may not serve to protect the public from a real estate licensee's perspective. So I would think spelling that out a little bit would be helpful for you and for the outline.
Oh, now, Jim, you know I wouldn't submit a course that wasn't supposed to protect the public. You know better than that.
I do know better than that. But yeah, the courses that are being required are related to current issues impacting the industry. So they're not necessarily intrinsically mixed with protecting the public. They just happen to be because, of course, we're promoting courses and education that do serve to protect the public. All right. If that is all,
I think, Ali, do you have one more?
No, I just know how to raise my hand. I don't know how to take it down.
Okay, that's great. You say raised. All right. Well, Elena did send out a fantastic update last time. And Stephanie and the chats thanked her for that. So if you didn't see that, I will ask Elena if she would send that out again with the next one she does, because she's quite amazing that way and has great bullet pointed, lots of white space. So even people like me like to read it.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everyone. And as always, we're here to answer any questions. And if you do get a course deficiency notice, then by all means, reach out to us. We'll be happy to explain it to you. But if you want that denial to have your day in court, we will give that to you too. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.